Tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is Zoe speaking. I am the Adult Programming and Community Outreach Librarian at Tredyffrin Public Library. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for our second part of Introduction to Microsoft Word. For your information, this session is being recorded for future reference or for anyone who was not able to make this session in the program. It will be made available on our YouTube channel within about 24 hours. Please make use of the Q&A function or the chat to ask questions along the way. I'm happy to answer anything that might come up. I am going to be throwing a lot at you tonight, so please let me know if I'm moving too quick or it would be better if I quicken my pace. Before we get right into Word, I have a quick announcement. All of us at the library have been proud and delighted to be able to serve the community in a multitude of ways throughout the pandemic. Virtual programs like this one, plus electronic materials, reference chat, curbside pickup, and more have kept the community inspired, engaged, and connected. But the pandemic has also caused a loss of revenue at our libraries and has increased many costs. Now it is likely that cuts to services and programs may come. If you can give any amount, we are very grateful for your support. You can click the link in the chat to donate tonight. If you pre-registered for this program, I did send out a PDF file of tonight's presentation, and you can click the link provided in the presentation to head over to our support page. So without further ado, let's get right into Microsoft Word. I wanted to give a quick review of what we discussed in part one if you were not able to join us. This recording of part one is available on YouTube for you to catch up on if you want to. But last week we covered getting to know Microsoft Word 2013. This program is based off of the interface of 2013, but most knowledge and skills that we cover in this class, you can take onto any version of Word. So if you have a newer computer, you'll have the newest version of Microsoft Word. We spent some time understanding the interface and layout and the main components of Word, such as the Word Start screen, ribbon, and Backstage view. We also discussed the ribbon in detail, the individual ribbon tabs, and the command groups, as well as creating, saving, and opening documents. So tonight I'm going to be going over how to input text, how to edit text, and kind of just like the main, I guess, skills that you would use for when you interact with Word. If you are joining me on a computer, feel free to open up Word if you have it, and you can kind of type along with me while I discuss some skills. At the end, I'm more than willing to screen share my version of Word so that you can see what we're talking about tonight in action. Just let me know in the chat or Q&A if you would like to see that at the end. So I just want to go over some basic computer skills that you need in order to work well within Word. So the main one is inserting text via your cursor. So that's usually just like a left click to bring up the text cursor, which is usually that like blinking eye. Wherever that blinking eye is where you'll start typing. You'll utilize the Enter key quite a bit, and this is for creating a new paragraph or a new line or a line break. So this is very similar to if you have experience using a typewriter. It's very, very similar. You just don't have to manually do it yourself. Now the computer does it for you. Copy and paste is another skill needed. The main thing with copy and paste is highlighting the text. So you'll have to know how to left click and drag to highlight a piece of text. And copying and pasting, there are so many different shortcuts to do this. You could use the command on the home ribbon as we discussed last time, or you can use Control-C, Control-V, or Command-C, Command-V if you are using an Apple computer. Drag and drop. So this is, again, mostly using highlighting skills, and then you can kind of move around your text. If you were to highlight, left click, and hold that left click, you can click and drag to any desired spot on the document. And then find and replace is a skill I think is worth mentioning. You might not use it all the time, but if you do a lot of editing in Word, it can become very useful. So to find a word, you would do Control F or Command F if you are using an Apple computer. And you would type in a certain word or a certain phrase that you're trying to find within a document. And then you can replace it using the home button, and it's just replacing the word with a click of a button. And I can show you this later towards the end of our session, what that might look like. I wanted to provide some helpful keyboard shortcuts that you'll probably use throughout your experience on Word. Like I mentioned, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V is for copying and pasting. Control X or Command X is to cut. So what happens is the highlighted text will be cut from the document, so it will be deleted, but then you can then paste it somewhere else in the document. Cutting is basically copying, but you're deleting what you've highlighted. You just have to move it somewhere else. Control Z or Command Z is the undo button, which is my best friend whenever I'm working in any like email, Word, anything like that. If you make a mistake, if you hit Command Z or Control Z, it'll undo your last action. And then say you didn't mean to undo your last action. If you click Control Y or Command Y, it'll redo your last undo, which has also been a lifesaver for me in my past. And then I mentioned the Control S or Command S last session. The Command or Control S is just to save the document as you work through it. This is really great, so you don't have to keep navigating to the backstage view, or you don't have to keep clicking that little floppy disk in the left-hand corner. And then there are shortcuts to modify any text that you have highlighted. So Control or Command plus B will bold the highlighted text. Control or Command plus U will underline, and Control or Command plus I will put the text in italics. So I'm going to go over some formatting basics. And you can see here, this is the command group where you will most likely format your font styles when working in Word. So font type is this portion here. It's usually set to Calibri. That is the Windows standard font style. You can change it to anything that is available, like Arial, Times New Roman, Comic Sans, or anything that you prefer. Usually documents are Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri. I don't think anyone really strays from that, but you're more than welcome to explore the fonts. There are some fun ones to look at. And you can also download them from the internet. You have to be very careful what you're looking for, but if you're looking for, say, a specific type of font like the Star Wars Jedi font, you can find that online to make use of. You can also change the font size, which is the next command here. It says 11. So Calibri at 11 size font is the standard whenever you open up Word. You can change it, increase it or decrease it by clicking this drop-down menu and clicking the number. Or to the right of it, you'll see a big A and a little a. The big A will increase the size of the font and the little a will decrease the size of the font. You can also change the case style of your text. So this is the case command here. It's a capital A and a lowercase a with a drop-down menu. This can change your case. So sentence case just means that the first letter is capitalized and the rest are lowercase. You can do all caps, all lower caps, every word capitalized. It's really great. It's fun to explore if you wanted to kind of play around with that. Bold, italics, underline, and more are going to be at the bottom of your font type. So B is bold, I is italics, U is underline, and they kind of show what it'll look like. The B is bolded, the I is in italics, and the U is underlined. And there are other different font types, like a strike through, a subscript, and a superscript. So if you are using Word to do math homework, let's say, or chemistry homework, you can insert the subscript or the superscript using this button here. You can also change the color, highlight, and even background style of your text. So the A with the red underline will be the color of the font itself. So you can see here on the screen, this font is a little bit gray. You would change it here with the A underlined red. The AB with the yellow underline and paintbrush, that is your highlighting button. So it works just like any highlighter would in person. If you highlight something or highlight a group of text on Word and you click the AB yellow, it'll highlight it in a neon yellow color. And then the A with the gray square in the background is just to change the background color of your text. This won't change the entire background color of your document, just the text behind it. And you can choose from a variety of colors. And as I mentioned when describing each of these font styles, what you'll have to do is to highlight the select text that you want to format. So say you want to format just a certain paragraph or a certain line, you would highlight it and then click on the different commands as you see fit. So say you wanted to change your paragraph to Times New Roman size 12 in bold, you would click Times New Roman from the drop-down list, increase 1 to 12 or select 12 from the drop-down menu, and then click B or Control B, Command B to bold your highlighted text. Next is still formatting text styles. In this slide, I'll be covering text alignment and indentation. So text alignment is going to be these four options here. You have left, center, right, and I don't remember what this is called, but this disperses it out in an even square for you. So by default, Word aligns text to the left margin in new documents, much like a typewriter would, or when you're reading a physical book or reading a letter, most of our text aligns to the left. If you wanted to center, you would just highlight all of the text you want to center and then click the center text alignment or right alignment. Next is indentation. Again, it's very similar to a typewriter, except you're just clicking a button on your screen. You'll highlight the text that you want to indent, and it'll indent it a ½ inch each time you click either left or right. Once you get to the inch margin, it'll stop indenting either left or right. And you can also use your tab key on your keyboard. So if you have your cursor placed in front of the first word of your sentence or paragraph, if you hit the tab key once, it'll indent it ½ inch for you, which is kind of the standard. If you are using Word for school, like you're writing papers or you're writing letters or you're writing a memo, usually you indent at the beginning of each paragraph. So you would use the indent buttons here on the paragraph command group, or you can use your tab key on your keyboard. You can also create numbered and bulleted lists. And this again is on the home ribbon. It's going to be just above the alignment buttons we were just looking at. So you would highlight the selected text, and then on the Home tab, you can click the drop-down arrow next to the bullets to select different bullet styles. There's a lot of options, actually, surprisingly. They have checks, squares. They also have the outline, so it would be like Roman numeral I, A, lowercase Roman numerals, and so on and so forth. If you wanted to write outlines, I definitely used that a lot when I was in high school. I took a lot of AP classes, and a lot of our homework involved creating outlines, and it was easier for me to type the outlines rather than write them out by hand. So that can come in handy if you take a lot of notes. You can also upload pictures for your bulleted list. It would just have to be like a smaller picture. And then when you click this down arrow here, it'll say more options. You'll click the more options and then explore the advanced options. But I recommend if you're just starting out on Word to just stick with the options that they have and play around with the different styles. And numbered lists are very similar. You would just highlight the text and then click the 1, 2, 3, which is next to the bulleted list button. If you started to create a list and you needed to add a couple more lines, all you have to do simply is hit the enter or return button on your keyboard, and then it'll create a new line with either a new number or a new bullet. And then when you've reached the end of your list, press enter twice, and it'll return to your normal formatting. So when you're creating a list, it is indented 1/2 inch. When you hit enter twice, it'll take you back to that inch margin. And then you have the option to create multi-level lists, which I mentioned with the outlining. You can do it with any bulleted or numbered list. Like I said, you can just do a bulleted list. The bullets will change like you see here. This is a solid bullet and this is just an outline bullet, so that you can kind of differentiate between the information. The numbers, I believe it's number, letter, number, and then bullets or outline would be capital Roman numeral, capital letter, lowercase Roman numeral, and then lowercase letter. You can also insert symbols and special characters. So if you say you're typing in a different language, say you're typing in Spanish or French and you need accents, you can insert the symbols there. Or if you are using Word to complete math homework or to just type about science, you can also insert specific characters that way. So what you do is you place the insertion point in the location where you want to insert a symbol. On the Insert tab, which is on the ribbon, click Symbol, drop-down arrow, and a menu of symbols will appear. Windows will automatically show you the most commonly used symbols, but if you do not see the symbol that you're looking for, you can click See More and then select from a full menu of symbols and special characters. When you select the desired symbol, you press Enter or Return on your keyboard, and the symbol will appear in your document where you've placed the insertion cursor. And then, like I said, if you don't automatically see the symbol you're looking for in that quick access menu that pops up, you can click More Symbols to open the dialog box and explore the different symbols and characters that Word has made available. There are Alt keyboard shortcuts for most symbols, and on the next slide I'll show you some of the shortcuts for the more popular symbols, like a pound sterling, a cent sign, anything that you don't see on your keyboard. So the Alt shortcuts are very much like the Control shortcuts. You'll have to click Alt at the same time as entering in the number combinations. So Alt plus 0128 will give you the euro currency symbol. You can do a big dot, a trademark, a cent, a sterling pound, copyright, an upside down question mark, which can be used when you're typing in Spanish, as same with the upside down exclamation mark. And then these are just sample accents that are most commonly used. And then you can see the shortcuts here. These are just some examples of the more popular symbols that you would probably see throughout your day on a QWERTY keyboard, which is just a standard keyboard. But you can find longer lists online. Sometimes it's easier just to find the symbol or the special character in Word's dialog box than it is to Google a shortcut. And also a quick tip for any Apple or Mac users, if you are looking to insert a character with an accent like this E here, or this E with the, I think it's a diphthong, you would actually just hold down the letter on your Mac keyboard, and then a little menu will pop up with numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this E would be 1, this E would be 2, this E would be 3. Say you were hoping to insert this E, you would just press the number key that that correlates to. And I can show you what that looks like in action later on. Are there any questions so far before we move on to layout basics? The text formatting is probably the most formatting or editing you'll do throughout your experience. I definitely recommend opening up Word and just playing around and seeing what you can do in terms of editing with colors, styles, indenting, etc. Okay, I'm going to move on to layout basics, but you can always ask any questions along the way using the chat or Q&A function. So the first thing when it comes to layout that you'll probably use more often than not is the orientation. So by orientation, I just mean the way that the paper kind of lays when you type. Its default is portrait, so it's kind of vertical rather than horizontal. So it'll be like a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, how you would normally type or write on a piece of paper. You can change the orientation to landscape, which is this option here on the left, and it's more horizontal than it is vertical. On the page layout tab on your ribbon, which is the fourth tab over, or the third tab over if you're using a Mac version of Word. And on the page layout, you'll have different options like adjusting the margin, the size, adding breaks and columns. But the orientation is the first button here, and this is where you can select if you would like it to be in portrait mode or in landscape mode. Looks like we have a Q&A question. I'm trying to get it up, but it's not coming. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why Zoom is being very difficult. There we go. Oh, okay. Someone says that they are not able to do the Alt shortcuts for some reason. I'm just going to ask if you are using a Mac computer or a Windows computer, because the Alt shortcuts are primarily used for Windows computers. I can take a look at that in just a moment when I open up Word to explore with you. Sorry about that. I'm losing my place in the presentation. Okay, you are using Windows. I will take a look at that and see what's going on. Make sure you're clicking Alt and then the number combinations at the same time. Don't let go of the Alt button until you're completely done entering in those numbers. Sorry for the back and forth of the screen share. All right, so. And then, like I said, to change the orientation, you'll just click this drop-down menu and then select which orientation you are looking for. Next is adjusting the margins. The margins are automatically set for 1 inch for top, bottom, left, and right, which is pretty much the standard. Like I said, if you are used to typing on a typewriter, it is usually set to 1 inch all around, and that is what Word is set to. But say you want to make the margins a little bit more narrow so that you can fit more on one page. You'll go to the page layout tab, which is the fourth over, and then click the margins tab. And then you can select predefined margin sizes like narrow, which will drop the top and bottom to 0.75 inches, and then the left and right to 0.5 or half an inch. You can also create custom margins if you wanted it to be a little bit more narrow or a little bit more wide. From the page layout tab, you'll click margins, which is right here. Select custom margins from the drop-down menu. The page setup box will appear, which is right here. This is what it'll look like. And then you can adjust the values depending on your desired outcome. So if you wanted to increase, you could click this up button, or decrease, click the down button, or you can just directly type in the sizes you're looking for using your keyboard. Once you click OK, your margins will be changed on your document. Next, another common one that I think I have used more now than I did before is changing the page size. So if you are writing specifically on ledger paper or legal paper, you can change the size in the Word document so you know exactly where your text will land when you print out your document. So staying on this page layout tab on the ribbon, you'll select the size command, which is just below orientation and to the right of margins. And then you can select the desired page. They have most sizes available, like legal, letter, executive, A4, and a few other more common ones. You can also use a custom size. So say you got special paper from the craft store and you're drafting up indentations for a wedding, you can insert the size of the special paper directly into Word, so you know exactly where your text will be on the specially sized paper. To do that, on the Page Layout tab, you'll select Size, and then click More Paper Sizes, which will be at the very bottom of that Select menu. The page setup dialog box will appear, and then you'll adjust the values for width and height in inches, then click OK, and then the page size of the document will be changed. Next is line and paragraph spacing. So line spacing just means the space in between each line. So Word has it set up automatically to be a really weird size. Most documents, like letters, are written in single space. And then if you say you're writing a paper for school, that will be in double spacing. But to alter the line spacing, you'll just highlight the text that you want to format. And then on the Home tab, click the line and paragraph spacing command, and then a drop-down menu will appear. And then you can move the mouse over various options to select the spacing that you want to use. There's a single spacing, 1.15 spacing, which is the standard when you open up Word. It's automatically set to 1.15. There's 1.5 and then 2-inch spacing. You can also add or remove spacing before and after paragraphs. When I was in college and typing up essays, we always had to remove spacing before and after the paragraph just because it was a little bit neater that way. But you're more than welcome to use that spacing option if you so wish. Next is paragraph spacing. And this will just change the spacing of the paragraph. So you'll highlight to select the paragraph or paragraphs you want to format. On the Home tab, click Line and Paragraph Spacing command and hover the mouse over Add Space before paragraph or Remove Space after paragraph from the drop-down menu. And then select the spacing that you wish to use. And then you can control if you want spacing before or after any of the paragraphs in your document. I mentioned a little bit earlier about indenting, but this will kind of give you a clearer example of what I mean by half an inch. So like I mentioned, the easiest way to indent a paragraph is using your tab key on your keyboard, which is above your caps lock key on any keyboard that you're using, any QWERTY, QWERTY keyboard that you are using. What you'll do is you'll place the insertion point at the very beginning of your paragraph, so just before the first letter of your first word. When you press the tab key on the ruler, you should see that the first line indent marker will move to the right by half an inch. So you can see here, the inch is marked right here. That one is 1 inch from the margins to here. And then your little arrow, your indent arrow, will appear at 0.5 inches or half an inch. Each time you hit the tab key on your keyboard, it'll indent in half an inch. So if you were to hit it a second time, the T for thank you will bump right down below the first inch of your document. You can also do this using the indent tabs, which I went over a little bit earlier. So if you highlight the select text that you wish to indent, you can click the right tab to move it over half an inch to the right, or click the left tab to move it half an inch over to the left. And once you reach your inch margin, it'll stop moving. So if you say your text started at the first inch, you highlighted it, clicked the left tab twice, you would not be able to click that left tab again just because it's right up against your margin. So the next little bit of information can be a little bit tricky to pick up when you're playing around on Word. So I definitely recommend playing around with this skill before integrating it into your just daily Word use. And it's tabs and tab stops. So using tabs gives you more control over the placement of your text. By default, every time you press the tab key, the insertion point will move half an inch to the right. Adding tab stops to the ruler allows you to change the size of the tabs, and Word even allows you to apply more than one tab stop to a single line. For example, on a resume, you could left align the beginning of a line and right align the end of the line by adding a right tab stop. So here's a list of the different tab stops. The left tab just aligns the text to the left at the tab stop. Center is centering the text around the tab stop. Right tab is right aligns the text to the tab stop. Decimal tab, this aligns decimal numbers using the decimal point. Bar tab draws a vertical line on the document wherever the tab stop is. First indent line inserts the indent marker on the ruler and indents the first line of text in a paragraph. And hanging indent allows you to insert the hanging indent marker and indents all lines other than the first line. So I think the most common ones will be left tab, decimal tab, and first line indent. But with the first line indent, it's just easier to tab over that half an inch yourself using your tab key or using the tab command on your ribbon. So to add the tab stops, and I have some handy pictures here on the right, the tab stops will be this little square in the top left-hand corner where your two rulers will meet. Your first thing you have to do is select the paragraph or paragraphs you want to add tab stops to. If you don't select any paragraphs, the tab stops will apply to the current paragraph and any new paragraphs you type below it. Click the tab selector until the tab stop you want to use appears. So you can see here, this is the decimal tab, and we can tell that by the little decimal that appears on the right corner of the tab stop. Next, you click the location on the horizontal ruler where you want your text to appear. It helps to click on the bottom edge of the ruler rather than just on the ruler itself. And again, you can add as many tab stops as you want. Place the insertion point in front of the text you want to tab, then press the tab key, and the text will jump to the next tab stop. To remove any tab stops, all you have to do is click and drag the tab stop off of the ruler. So this is what it looks like when a tab stop is placed on a ruler. So you can see the decimal tab was placed at 3.5 inches. If you no longer wanted this tab stop, you just click and then drag it off of the ruler and the tab stop will disappear. Moving back to more easier items, headers, footers, and page numbers. Oh my. So headers and footers are helpful for kind of like formal documents, like if you're writing a paper for school. You can use the header to insert your name and it'll appear on every page of the document. So to add a header or a footer, the easiest way is to double click anywhere on the top or bottom margin of your document. Make sure it's within that inch margin. The header or footer will open and a design tab will appear on the right side of your ribbon. And then the insertion point will appear in the header or the footer depending on where you clicked. You would type in your desired information into the header or footer, and then when you're finished, you'll just close that red X, close header and footer. So whenever you add a header or a footer, like I said, it'll appear on every single page of your document. You do have the option to not have it on your first page and then have it on every page from that point forward. And I can show you what that would look like. And then say you made a typo and you want to edit, you can simply double click anywhere on the top or bottom margin of your document to edit your header or footer. And then you can also add page numbers pretty much anywhere on your document. It can be the top of your page, the bottom of your page, in the margins, or even in the current position where your cursor is. And you can add the page number within the header and footer, excuse me, the header and footer design tab. So when you're in the design tab, you'll click page number. And then when the menu appears, you can add it in your top page. So it'll say left, middle, or right. Same with bottom will be left, middle, or right, or even in your current position. Once you select where you'd like your page number to appear in your document, it'll appear. Once you say you wanted it in the top left-hand corner, once you click that, it'll add all of the page numbers. And the same with the header and footer, you have the option to not have a page number on the first page. So we have someone in the chat asking, how do you remove the headers completely? So normally there isn't a header in the document. So if you didn't want a header, you would just type normal. You'll still have that inch margin all around, left, right, top, and bottom. So the header and footers are placed within that inch margin. If you do not want that inch margin, you would actually just adjust your margin size rather than playing around with the header and footer. If, say, you accidentally entered in a header and you no longer want it, you can go to your design tab of the header and delete everything in that text or in the header, and then click close, and then it'll delete all of the headers from that point forward. And I can show you how to do that in action a little bit later. And please let me know if I answered your questions completely. And I won't forget the alt question. I'll play around with that when we get to looking at my word. In a few minutes. Oh, okay, so it actually looks like I have covered everything I wanted to tonight. Are there any additional questions or comments? You can always shoot me an email, and you can also schedule a one-on-one tech session if this program didn't cover quite exactly what you were hoping and you were looking for something very specific. You can always schedule a tech session with me. It'll be one-on-one, so I would answer every single question you have going in. You can always email me before the next class or even after this program series to answer any questions that you might have along the way. And then there's also information for both Tredyffrin Public Library and Paoli Library and our website. So thank you so much for attending tonight. I hope you got something out of it. I know I was kind of throwing a lot at you, but it's usually the more fun parts of Word I think this presentation is about. Just kind of playing around with your formatting, getting comfortable with margins, headers, font styles, and etc. So next class will be our final class for Introduction to Word, and I'll be covering topics like inserting pictures, tables, and other kind of more advanced skills. Like I mentioned, this class was recorded, so if you want to brush up before next Tuesday, you can watch the video. It'll be up within 24 hours. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you again.